Secretly recorded from deep inside the bowels of a decommissioned missile silo, we bring you the man, one single man who wants to bring light to the darkness and dark to the lightness. Although he's not always right, he is always certain. So now, with security protocols in place, the protesters have been forced back behind the barricades and the blast doors are now sealed. Without further delay, let me introduce you to the host of HuttCast, Mr. Tim Huttner.
Thank you, Sergeant-at-Arms. You can now take your post.
Welcome back, guys, to HuttCast. HuttCast today is going to have some special guests today. Her name is Heather Leopold, and she is with Combined Insurance. Now, we're not going to turn this into an insurance sales show, so don't hang up yet. She's going to have some information that, you just might need as an employee or an employer in today's hectic but crazy world that we live in. So for HuttCast, we will be right back. Stand by.
We hear a lot about air quality these days, so keeping your indoor equipment running clean and efficiently is important to your health. The experts at Dependable Heating and Cooling in Coon Rapids have been servicing the Twin City areas for more than 25 years with the latest and most efficient technology available. They will repair or replace your equipment and keep your indoor air healthy and comfortable. Call 763-757-5040. Our team of experts is standing by, waiting to help you with all your indoor needs. Mention you've heard about this by listening to the HuttCast podcast, and you will receive a $50 off any repair. That's Dependable Heating and Cooling. 763-757-5040. Dependable Heating and Cooling.
Okay, as I mentioned in pre-roll, we have with us Heather Leopold. Heather Leopold is with Combined Insurance. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Heather, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. So I am agency manager for Combined Insurance, which is owned by Chubb. Chubb is number one in the industry, the top traded in the stock market for property, casualty, and auto insurance. So we're pretty proud to be backing a company with that sort of reputation. So basically what we do is we help businesses to individuals with supplemental insurance needs.
I see. Now, when you mean supplemental insurance, what is that? What's the scope of work that is?
That's a great question. So supplemental insurance could be anywhere from disability insurance to sickness benefits to cancer policies, life insurance as well.
Mm-hmm. I see. Now, let's start at the beginning. Let's say, I am an employer and I want to give this as a benefit package. Do I contact you, or does the insured, or will the employee contact you?
That's a great question. There's two ways to go about it. So a company could contact us to help their employee benefit package, and these are benefits they could offer their employees,
I see.
Or an individual could certainly offer these as well.
Fill in the gaps for me on this. Let's say I'm reading through your flyer, and it's quite comprehensive. Now, it says cash benefits that can help provide you a safety net for your family. What does that mean?
So there's different policies we offer, but the gist of that is if something were to happen, we would pay you directly, whether it's a lump sum or we're going to help cover some of those medical costs, co-pays, deductibles, medication costs, hospital stays, hotel stays. We even help people with their rent in an event of a life-changing sickness.
So this isn't gap insurance. This is like the actual insurance, or is it gap?
Some people will reference this as a gap insurance, correct?
So you have to have a policy before you enact this policy. Is that correct?
Most likely, yes. Most of our policies, you would want to have a health insurance in place. That's going to cover all your major medical. This is insurance that will take care of the out-of-pocket expenses. Loss of income is a big one. So example would be COVID, we're coming out of COVID. At least I like to say we're coming out of COVID. A lot of individuals got sick, tested positive, and were off for 2 weeks. If the employer did not offer to pay those lost wages, if there was a policy like a sickness pay in place, we would recoup that dollar amount to the employee.
Define recoup.
Well, maybe I used the wrong word, recoup. We reimburse
okay. So you're not
the last dollar amount.
I get it. You're not subrogating that you'll pay and then they go after the insured's, the employer's insurance.
No, we don't go after anyone.
Okay. Because that's what it kind of sounded like.
This is a benefit that is in place in event that one of these were to happen.
So let's use the COVID, for instance. An employee has COVID, but he doesn't have health insurance through you, but he is off for 14 days as mandated by whomever. Does that fill in the gap then? Does that fill in his wages?
Sure, absolutely it does. If there's a policy in place, yes, then there would be a claim, and those lost wages would be paid to that employee.
What's the process?
The process is quite simple. There's a couple different ways to go about it. You could use the online portal to file your claim, or you could contact one of the agents to help you process that claim.
Now, one of the agents, are you an agent or are you just in sales?
I am not an agent. I'm actually an agency manager. So I work with teams of agents.
I see. You would direct them to someone else?
If they contacted me directly?
Yeah.
I would probably help them. If they contacted me directly, I would assist them with that.
I see. All right. See, I'm reading some more of this, and enhancing your protection with combined insurance. Focus on what really matters is living well. Chubb Global. What are they all about? I mean, because I see they got $167 billion in total assets. They got $36 billion in gross premiums. I'm reading this right off of your flyer. But how long have they been around?
Well, Combined has been around for about 100 years. Chubb has been around, I want to say, close to that as well. Chubb bought Combined about 5 years ago. So Combined has been in supplemental insurance for about 100 years, and they did solely individual sales. Then Chubb purchased Combined. I hope that's not too confusing.
Nope, I got it. I'm following.
When they did purchase, they had the long-term goal to turn this into group sales as well. And that's what we're doing.
Okay, I'm an employee. Something happened. I'm in trouble. Tell me why I need this program.
Well, there's several reasons you're going to need any one of these policies. We first start out by doing an analysis with you, sitting down with you to determine, what happens if you got a cancer diagnosis? What happens if you have a stroke, a heart attack? What do these life events look like to you? What happens if you're out of work? Are you financially fit to have a couple months off? If not, where's that money going to come from? If it's not going to come from the employer, if it's not for, say, a work comp claim, then you're on your own. So most people can't afford that. So that's where these benefits will come in. I'm sure you're well aware of the GoFundMe funds we see on social media, Facebook, etc.
Correct.
Help fund this. We see it a lot with cancer patients, unfortunately, where they get a cancer diagnosis, they can't work, they have increasing medical costs, copays, deductibles, co-insurance, hospital stays, prescription drugs. It goes on and on and on. So these policies, especially the cancer policies, would pay for those. So about 2 weeks ago, we delivered a $50,000 check to a gal who was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. So, thankfully they caught it in time, but she had to go through the whole medical procedures, take some time off. We delivered her the check. No questions asked. She's diagnosed with cancer. Those funds will help her and her family financially through this struggle.
So let's say you have the crappiest plan on the planet from your employer, and they don't cover nothing. Will this take up fully of that, or how does that?
No, it will not. So that I don't want you to be have a misunderstanding of these policies. So if there is, for say, a insurance policy in place now, and it's an insanely high deductible, there's going to be some, when I say gap, there are going to be some things that are going to help soften that blow in regards to the financial part. I mean, there's different levels of our plans as well. So it's sitting down, looking at your insurance policy, determining what your out-of-pocket costs are, and then if there were a life-changing health event, we'll show you what this insurance could do for you.
Interesting. Is there an age limit on this?
Some of the policies, yes, there are age limits on them. And each policy is different, so I won't go into great detail. Some of them cut off, I want to say, if I recall right, around 75 years of age. And some, you may have to be 18 to start them as well.
I see.
So every policy has its own underwriting requirements on them.
Nice. Now, what about, what was I going to say here? Let's say someone needs a policy from their employer that has X amount of dollar coverage, and I'm probably repeating myself, but if they had this coverage and it was just basically a major medical, is that another thing that's going to kind of fill in?
Yes, it could assist with that. Absolutely.
I see. And what are these programs called? I mean, do they have like a gold, a plan, a platinum? How are they?
Correct.
Okay. I was just guessing.
Yep. No, great guess. So there are certain levels of plans you can go into, and basically what that means is, what are the benefit amounts? So like disability, there's different levels of that depending on your income. If you had to collect disability, we're going to pay. We can't overpay you. Basically, we don't want to get into insurance fraud here either.
Okay.
So we have to determine what is the appropriate number, what is affordable for that individual. The cancer policy, same thing. You can basically go in tiers. Do you want a $10,000 check, a $20,000, a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 check at time of diagnosis? We look at all of that with each individual. So it really can vary.
Wow, it sounds like a lot of spectrum there.
It can be. Yep.
Who does the assessment?
The agents do.
Okay.
Yep.
And is it an in-person or over the phone, or how do we work with that?
Yeah, we do in-person. We can do over the telephone as well. We use WebEx as well for video chat. It's whatever the individual is comfortable with. Obviously, things are changing with COVID. We don't do as many in person as we once did.
I can imagine. Okay, you said COVID a couple times, and I want to ask a specific COVID question.
Sure.
If he gets diagnosed with COVID and he's off for the 14 days or whatever that mandate is, how do you proceed with it with a claim? Do you just say, hey, I got COVID and I'm off for work?
Yeah.
That's it, huh?
Correct. And then you just obviously have to prove your COVID positive test, that it was in fact positive, and that you had to miss 2 weeks of work. Usually we'll get something from the employer saying you cannot come to work for 14 days or whatever the policy may be. And then you submit that with what your daily wage would be.
How long is these programs good for?
Again, that really varies depending on the individual and the policy. So they can stay in force for your life.
Really?
So each policy is different. Some of those policies are going to kind of term around 75.
Okay.
Yep. For obvious reasons. Otherwise, we'd be paying out nonstop.
Well, I'm on a term that's coming due, and it's major medical, so, I mean, there's not much you can really get or collect from it at this point, unless I'm dead, and then I ain't collecting anyway. But if the wife was to collect, could she collect on my policy if I had one with you?
I'm not sure. There's so many variables that play into it.
Okay.
Depending on the policy, there are some spousal benefits as well, absolutely.
So survival clause.
Correct.
Ah. So it kind of sounds like a la carte.
It could be. Again, I don't want to say... without looking at the specific situation and policy and matching the two, it's hard to speak in fact.
Right. I'm trying to get generals, but that's such an interesting topic that I got to ask the right questions, and I'm hoping to ask the right questions because I am not an insurance agent.
That's okay.
Young people do not play the insurance game. They don't believe in it. And I was always under insurance plans. And as a kid, I always said, well, kid is 18. Why would I need to? I'm invincible.
Right.
Tell us why these kids should really have a plan like this, because they don't think that far ahead.
No, they don't. I suppose with the younger population, when I'm meeting with them, one thing I point out to them is, I understand you're young, you're healthy, and I hope nothing happens to you, and I hope you're right that nothing happens to you. However, if there was a life-changing event, if there was a critical illness or a car accident, what's going to happen? Can you financially afford that? And I would basically try to lay out numbers for them as well, just to get a clearer picture on what that looks like, with medical costs, things like that. Even life insurance, a lot of individuals, younger individuals, don't necessarily fully think about the benefits of life insurance. So,
right.
So we discuss those options with them as well. It's basically what is important to that individual, when it comes down to a situation like that. What does it look like? Do you want to be scraping for money? Do you want to have a GoFundMe account? Those are the things we don't want for individuals. There's enough stress on the table. Let's try to remove that one.
Do they normally cap the income? I mean, so the guy, say this 18-year-old makes $600,000 a year. Is this a thing? Mm-hmm. Or do they just pay about a certain amount that you want to pony up for?
Well, it's going to come down what they want the insurance for. What is the amount they want it for? Now, $600,000 a year would be a little out of our ballpark to write that.
I see.
Yeah.
So you want blue-collar, mainstream workers?
Well, we need, the people we work with are typically, not always, but typically individuals who, don't have $50,000 in their savings account that they can use towards medical costs.
What would you tell these kids right about now? Because they are listening, and we are in 40 countries, and we have 87,000 downloads, and we have 240 million viewers. So what would you tell these people in the world? I know you're out of Illinois. Your particular is an office is in Minnesota. Uh-huh. Is there one in every state, city?
Yeah, we're nationwide.
But not global.
So, not global, no.
Okay. So
but we have a strong presence in a lot of the states.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. What am I not asking you?
I don't know. You seem to be asking appropriate questions, I think.
Well,
a lot of good questions.
Well, again, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. I just want to make sure that questions I am asking are, what would my listeners listen to or want to do? I mean,
right. And I think a lot of people get turned off with the word insurance in general, and I get it. I understand that. It's not the funnest topic by any means, but it is definitely an important one. We insure our homes, we insure our vehicles, we insure our cell phones. We insure our health, and it's more affordable. Supplemental insurance is definitely more affordable than one would think it is.
Okay.
It's very reasonable in price, and it could be a huge, relief off your shoulders in the event that something were to happen.
If by chance someone gets in a ATV accident or a fishing accident, or take your pick, they get juiced up, they're drunker they should be, and all of a sudden they run across Lake Mille Lacs and run into something, right, on a snowmobile.
Uh-huh.
Was there a provision for, well, I hate to say it, but stupidity for these people? I mean,
yes.
There's got to be something.
Correct. So most policies will not cover drinking and driving if there was an accident because you were breaking the law. Any criminal activities,
Which includes drug use, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So there are certain clauses there that the policies are not going to cover. And that's with homeowners, that's with auto insurance, that's with supplemental. We do see that.
Okay. We know some guys who like to go to the racetrack, right? Been there, had the T-shirt, and we do that. But we're out there having some fun, and we're testing tuning driving cars. He loses control. He hits a busload of nuns, which is a euphemism for a pole.
Uh-huh.
Does he get coverage?
We would have to look at the underwriting guidelines, and that is part of our job. So we do ask these questions: what type of lifestyle, hobbies are they risky? There are certain ones that are excluded.
Okay.
Skydiving is one of them.
Dang it!
I would have to look into your specific hobby to determine if that's written anywhere.
Okay.
But we do look and we do ask, because we never want to put a client in a position where they have this benefit and it's not going to pay out. That makes no sense to us.
Okay, devil's advocate.
Uh-huh.
You asked me if I skydive. I don't today, but I'd pick it up after I write my contract. Then what?
That's a great question. So that is something we would want to talk to underwriters with to determine that risk. However, at time of application, as long as it was, we asked it, you answered it in truth, we should be fine. But I can't guarantee coverage.
Right. I understand. Now, I'm not a skydiver, but a underwater diver, and they had asked that question for me, and I says, well, I'm going to dive, and it went through underwriting, and they says, well, if you're going to be a diver, then we will let this fly, it'll go through, but they charge me more for it. Correct.
There will be a rate increase at that point.
So don't tell everybody you skydive, race car drive, dragster, skydive, and climb mountains. What do? You sit at home and watch TV. That better be a pretty cheap policy, right?
Yeah, we do have to cover our risk as well. So we do ask those questions for obvious reasons. If there's increased
activity risk, I
risky, get it. Hobbies, then we do need to be aware of that.
Well, sometimes, okay, let's talk hobbies versus jobs. A client of mine got hurt on his job. He worked on the oil rigs out in Williston.
Uh-huh.
His tractor came in contact with a 50,000 volt line.
Oh, no.
He was pretty much connected to the vehicle. They were loading a piece of equipment, made contact, come through his hand, blew through his foot. And in that particular area of the world, the company couldn't, well, let me put it this way. The person who got hurt couldn't go after the company because that's not part of their law. Now, if he got hurt that bad, and let me tell you, I've seen it, he was messed up. Would this policy engage that?
Yes. There's several policies. So, yes, there are policies in there that would help him.
So it's a work accident happened out in the fields.
Yep, disability. Mm-hmm.
Ah, right. Okay. So does everybody's disability plan have this? So if I employ somebody and we have a shop that we work on stuff, and we have a disability program now, and this is the gap for that, would that sound about right?
Sure. So disability insurance is extremely important, especially to protect the employers as well and the employees. Mm-hmm. So I believe every company should have a disability policy in place. They can determine how they want to pay for it. Do they want the employee to pay for it, or at least offer it to the employee, or is the employer going to pay for it or a portion of it? That's going to help with your liability insurance, your work comp insurance. Because if something happens, well, it's going to potentially go on your work comp unless there's a disability in place.
Oh, yes, we have work comp for our employees. Does that qualify them as having a policy? And could you write the secondary on that?
Correct. So it would be another policy in place.
So pretty much anybody who has employees and they have this in place with their workers' comp could file for this addendum from you guys.
Correct. So work comp is for obviously on-site on property work injuries.
Okay.
Disability, you can pick on or off or both injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you've heard of individuals who were not injured or hurt on the job site, but claim they were.
Yeah, they hobble in and claim it on their insurance for the job.
Sure. Yep. And I obviously don't encourage that. That is insurance fraud.
Yes, it is.
So disability would slide in there and cover that. And it would take the attention off the work comp piece.
Wow. How does one set up a program to talk with you guys?
Well, the first thing they would want to do is kind of we do like a presentation, go over all of our policies with the individual to determine which ones they're interested in.
Okay.
And then we would supply them with a quote on what that's going to cost them. Obviously, as a group, you get a discount because the risk is through the pool of people versus just the individual.
Got it.
So, and then also with group sign-on, we do offer $12,000 free accidental death and dismemberment policy for each employee.
That sounds like a Colonial Penn type of thing. They used to do that when I worked at the dealerships.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yep, very similar.
Ah. Is Colonial Penn still in business?
Yes, they are.
Because that was like 20, 30 years ago. And I always think, is the company you're buying from going to be around when you need them?
They will. I mean, insurance companies, typically the bigger ones, I should say, are around for a very long time. Or they're bought by bigger insurance companies. I mean, obviously, I always do your homework with every insurance company you do business with, but the big names, you should be just fine.
How do you compare companies? Is there a Better Business Bureau? Do you call the insurance commissioner? How do you check your credentials?
Sure. So one thing I like to do is look at reviews off of Google. I mean, that's when I'm doing business with anybody.
Okay.
So you're going to get a good idea on, one thing to look at for insurance is claims. How are they paying claims? Is there a lot of complaints that they're not paying claims? We all hear of insurance companies you can get in cheap with, but when it comes to claim time, it's very challenging.
The Casper the Ghost, right?
Sure, you get what you pay for. So you definitely want to do your homework there with any insurance company. Just because you're getting a cheaper deal doesn't mean it's the better deal.
One of those things, right?
It's one of those things. So just Google reviews on that specific insurance company.
We could Google Combined Insurance from Chicago, Illinois, with your Googleizer, and you should be able to see all kinds of pluses, minuses, wins and loses.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, if they want to contact you, how would they do so, or do they just want to Google Combined Insurance?
Sure. I mean, I guess if they want to contact me directly, they could certainly call me on my cell phone number. They could email me.
What is your email address?
My email address is heather.leopold, Leopold, @combined.com.
And again, this is U.S. only, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so for you foreign listeners, no Australia guys, come on, you know better. But if you want insurance, you might have somebody down there you can call. But Heather is for us only. Too bad this time. All right, we got Chubb's. What am I missing? What am I missing to ask you, Heather?
I'm trying to think here if there's anything we didn't cover.
Tell our listeners, our U.S. listeners, what's the right things you should be asking for your employer or for insurance companies for you?
Sure. So I'm going to tell you a quick story if that's okay.
We got plenty of time. It's all yours.
Okay. I'm going to tell you a story. And I'm not proud of this story, but I'm going to tell you this story.
Mm-hmm.
Several years ago, I was running a company, and you probably knew me then. I was CFO. And a company tried to come in to offer supplemental benefits. I won't disclose the company name. It was not Combined. It was a different company, a big one. And I declined them. And I can't tell you why I did, but I thought our benefits were adequate, right? I knew I had good health insurance for my employees. We paid 100%. The deductible was $1,000, no copay. It was a fabulous policy. So I was like, we don't need supplemental. I I pay a lot of money for their health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a horrible story. About 2 months after I turned down that company, one of my employees came down with stage 4 lung cancer. It spread to the brain. It was nasty. It was horrible. So she had loss of work, medical bills. Each time she had chemo, there was co-insurance. The deductible was only $1,000, but those other pieces added up quick. Hospital stays. She had to stay at a hotel because she was getting treatment down at Mayo Clinic. And all of these costs were adding up, right? Prescription drugs, everything. And it was a substantial amount of money. It was around $18,000 within like 6 months of her intense medical therapy.
Oh boy.
I felt so bad because I learned quick if I would have at least had this company in to offer her supplemental, she could have had a policy in place to help with these costs. So I felt so terrible, and I felt like I did the wrong thing by not offering those benefits. I ended up paying for her medical costs because I felt so terrible. You know, I felt I was to blame due to my poor education. You know, I didn't research it far enough. I didn't think outside of the box, I suppose you could say. So it does happen, and there's nothing worse than when an employee comes to you asking for certain benefits and they're not there. You know, now they have to financially struggle through their sickness.
Well, that's a heck of a story.
Yeah, so it's definitely important. It's worth it. Even if the employer is not going to contribute, I work with companies that don't contribute to these benefits. The employee would pay for them. It'd be like a payroll deduction.
Okay.
And they're very reasonable. But some employers will contribute maybe 10%, up to 50%. I have one company that does 100%. They're very generous. So it doesn't matter, you know, who contributes what. I think that the important thing here is that they were offered at some point. They're available to each and every employee.
Have you forgiven yourself on this one?
I have. Yes, I have.
Because that's kind of a lot of baggage there.
That's how you kind of learn, though. Unfortunately, is sometimes it's a hard way, but you know, at the time, I just didn't think we needed them. We needed them. We had 2 employees that year have cancer.
I remember where you were at that.
Yeah, so we had 2 back-to-back, unfortunately. And in a year, you know, both terminal. So it's just unfortunate to see someone go through that, you know.
Yes.
And not have the financial means to pay for things. So
we can never check the future. We only have today and yesterday. That's the only thing we're sure of. So, you know, everybody thinks they're not getting sick. When you're 18, that's not in your thought, but you're probably not going to fall off your mini bike at 80.
Correct. Yeah.
Well,
so I mean, the benefits do we pay out. You know, we see. I don't know what the numbers were. I think they were in the flyer I sent you. I think it was like 1.1 million a day we're paying out in claims. You know, it's a lot of money.
Let's see here. 31,000 employees, 67 billion market capitalization, and 167 billion in total assets. I don't know if I see a. Oh, I'm sorry. Here it is. 2.3 million in claims benefits paid daily.
2.3. Yes, more than I thought.
That's a whole lot of number.
That's a lot of money. Yeah, it is.
Well, we appreciate you sharing that story. And again, I did know you when you were at that CFO position.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I didn't know that you were going through that. That's a lot to go through.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, this is life. You know, things happen, and yeah, but, you know.
Let's consider this your financial fire extinguisher. It's always nice to have one when you need it, but it's really terrible when you need one and don't have it.
Correct.
You can use that.
It's
go ahead and use that. You can run around in town saying, this is your financial fire extinguisher.
We don't want to have people selling their homes, liquidating their assets just to pay for medical bills. You know, these are things that benefits that can not only help pay for medical costs and loss of work. I hate to say it, but there's funeral costs as well. Just so we don't have to burden our friends and family with these costs.
Is there a beneficiary list on this?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I see. So if you buy it for yourself and you happen to have been in a situation where you pass, the beneficiary can use that money to bury you.
Correct.
Well, that's kind of a win. That's taking the load off somebody else.
It is. And I guess, let's not be selfish either. We're here. We don't want to burden our family if there was a loss.
Right.
We don't, I think life insurance is so important. And I don't just say that because I'm in the industry. I truly believe that. I couldn't imagine if something happened to me and my boys are going to lose out because of that.
Sure.
So I have life insurance policy. If something were to happen to me, they're going to be okay.
Let me ask a question this. Okay, let's say I have a term policy that's going to end pretty soon, and I bought this program on top of it. The policy that I had expires. Does yours stop at that point, or does it go forward?
We'd have to determine what policy we're looking at. Again, it's hard to speak on that because there's so many different policies.
I get it.
So I'm not sure what policy you're referencing on our end. Like most likely not. You have your
a term
standing, your term and these other benefits you can certainly have on top of that. Those are doing different things.
Right. All right. Let's tell everybody again the website.
Sure. The website is combine.com.
Mm-hmm.
My email address is heather.leopold@combine.com.
Okay. Do you have a LinkedIn?
I do. It's Heather Leopold.
Okay. So you're out there. You're findable.
I'm findable. Yeah. You can Google me.
Google the Googleizer again.
Right.
As what is Zoolander would say, the Lagooglegy.
Right. Right.
It's a stupid movie. You just got to enjoy the stupidness.
You have to enjoy the stupidity. Correct.
All right. On our parting words here, any advice for new, young, old, recently married people having babies, perhaps?
Sure. I suppose that my best advice is just be educated on insurance. Supplemental and all insurances, they all serve a purpose. There's reasons to have certain policies in place. Just be well educated. I hate seeing GoFundMe pages on Facebook. Because that could have been prevented. When we see these, they're asking for $50,000, $60,000.
Mm-hmm.
On the GoFundMe, there's an easier way, a very affordable way to help financially in a life-changing event. Right.
Okay. You guys heard it here. HuttCast has brought to you Heather Leopold, and she's brought us some, very good information, good points of view from Combined Insurance, and that is in Chicago, Illinois. You can Google her. You can use the Googleizer. You can find her on LinkedIn. Heather Leopold. Heather, thank you for spending the time with us and getting us educated.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else you want to add before I pull the pin?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. For HuttCast, we appreciate you tuning in, and as always, be well, get some insurance. And HuttCast is signing off. And that's a wrap for HuttCast. HuttCast is, again, a pragmatic approach to seeing things how some people see them. If you like our show, give us a thumbs up on the Facebook site. Again, for HuttCast, thank you again. Have a wonderful evening.